This has been a pretty remarkable day. I'm just inspired by every speaker. It has been informational, and it's very interesting to me how there are these threads all the way through. And I just want to take a moment to thank you, Tom Basford. You have been a very big part of our story in asking questions and helping lead us to really think toward sustainable solutions. And we would not be where we are today without his input. So Tom, I just want to thank you. I thank you for what you're doing here through the SAT Talks, but also all over the country. You are making a huge difference, and we all appreciate you very much. Well, I am probably the most mature in age of the speakers that you have here today. I'm kind of a latecomer to this forum, and but better late than never, I think. And we do have 13 grandchildren, so maybe that gives me some credibility on return on investment since I only have 2 children. So do the math. That's pretty good. As Tom said, Caring for Kids was birthed out of the citywide prayer movement, and we became an answer to a question that pastors were asking in the prayer networks across the city. And what they were asking as they built friendship and they were praying together, they asked the question, how can we serve our community together? They wanted to do it together, and Caring for Kids emerged out of that as an answer to that question. Over the past 40 years, high-income parents increased their spending on kids' enrichment activities tenfold when compared to parents in low-income communities. Art, music, and sports all contribute to higher achievement for children, and children born into poverty get the least exposure to these opportunities and are too likely to enter adulthood unprepared for college or careers. An organization named Expand Ed has done considerable research on the gap and discovered that by the sixth grade, kids born into poverty are likely to suffer a 6,000-hour learning gap compared to their middle-class peers. This is in a small part due to less time in the classroom and preschool opportunities, but the bulk of those hours comes from a lack of access to enriched learning that happens beyond the traditional school day. In addition, many children come from homes that are fractured and in crisis, with parents trying to survive the day. Parents and caregivers do not have much energy left to move from today into potential solutions for tomorrow and provide these opportunities for their children. I'd like to share a story with you, one of my favorite stories. I heard it at a leadership conference several years ago. And it's a story about a mayor in Newark, and it tells the story in the heart of the journey that we have been on, and we are truly on a journey. We are learning daily about this process. But there was a mayor of Newark who shared a story about vision at a leadership conference, and when he became mayor of Newark, he went to the different communities and began to talk to the people there, and he wanted to gain their perspective on what was going on in their community and how he might be able to serve them. So he invited an elderly lady who had been living in her community for a long, long time, and it was a very impoverished area, and he invited her to walk with him through the area, through her neighborhood, and he wanted for her to share his perspective, but she turned the table on him, and she said, well, Mayor, what do you see? And he pointed out a lot of issues that he saw, that he knew because they had done their homework, their research. There were crack houses, prostitution, talked about the drugs and gang, graffiti, and abandoned houses, and a variety of things. And so she looked at him with such wisdom, and she said, well, then, Mayor, I'm afraid you aren't going to be able to help us because what I hear from you are the list of problems. We know there are problems here. But what you are not saying is, what are the possibilities in my neighborhood, in my neighbors, of what could be? And that was a very good lesson to me on that day. I never forgot it, that we always want to know, we always want to lead with vision. We always want to know what are the possibilities before us. We recognize the problems. We want to provide sustainable solutions to the problems, but we want to have that clear vision. We began 5 years ago, we've been on the ground for 5 years, exploring the possibilities of helping under-resourced schools by building a framework where the strengths and the love of the local church could be mobilized to serve the dream and vision of a principal for the children. We wanted to build bridges and on-ramps to create a framework where the church could see the strengths in God's heart for the neighborhood and to see it through the corporate eyes of the school, through the principal, the teachers, the parents, and the children themselves. We didn't want to come into the partnership with answers of how to fix their problems. We wanted to come in with questions and how we might be able to serve into a shared dream for the children. We realized that a clear vision would emerge if we would just listen to the heartbeat of the principal, of her dream for those children that walk through those doors every day. We initially started by bringing churches together to help meet the needs in the neighborhood school in an answer to the question that we do ask of every single principal that we serve: how can we help you? And we did see organizations serving effectively in the schools around the city. And some of them were serving in the school together, but they were primarily working in silos. This truly added to the work of the principal and staff who had to coordinate the work of all the different organizations and what they were bringing to the table. Principals in every district we serve are encouraged to provide a positive experience for community engagement. The truth is, however, they sometimes wonder if the work that they're investing is really worth it. We wondered what would happen if neighborhood churches and businesses began working together in a collaborative partnership to serve the goals of the principal. This reframes the expectations of all and invites the principal to be the leader with his or her vision for the children. Additionally, when we work together, we all in this room would agree it accelerates the impact of what any one of us could do individually. And why is this true? Well, I think we've heard it several times today. The secret sauce is in the relationships that we develop with each other in the community. Churches together, churches and businesses together, civic groups, churches and businesses, the schools, developing relationships with the people that all have a common heart and a vision for the children in the area, in their neighborhood. And you know, when you think about it, isn't the gospel really about relationships between the creator and the created, and between relationships with each other? So we designed our model to be a 4-step engagement process, a collaboration process designed around that simple question: how can we help you? And we wanted it to be contextual, to adapt to any school culture. This is the process. We started, this is an interesting journey, we started with 7 steps, we're down to 4. We've learned a couple things along the way, and really trying to make it as simple and clear so that anybody could take the process and apply it to their contextual situation. Step 1 is our preparation step. We spend a lot of time in preparation because it's so worth it. We want everybody to have the shared expectations for the work that we are about to do. It's very critical and worth the investment. We meet with the superintendent and the leadership team to begin with. So we start with the highest level of leadership, because if you do not have the highest level of leadership buy-in, then you really are not going to be as successful as you could be. We identify the goals that this leadership, the superintendent, has for the community engagement. We identify existing initiatives. We do an asset assessment in the school district to see what's already going on and what's working. They identify the schools we work in. We don't identify the schools. We conduct several engagement events, and they're all audience specific, because the church perspective, the business perspective is very different. So we want to envision them differently, all around the same idea of serving kids so that they can thrive and be healthy and whole. We also encourage churches to invite their business leaders who are sitting out there in the pews every Sunday and really would love to be able to bring their gifts and their talents to the table. Their unique gifts of innovation and being able to envision for a big dream. We meet with chambers and host coffees with the superintendent to envision business partners all over in that school district for the collaboration. And we build the on-ramps for engagement as we go. Step 2, we mobilize the through a roundtable connection event, which truly is my favorite thing we do. So we bring everybody together. We also envision the principals, by the way. We meet with them separately. We want to answer all their questions, and we want to be sure that they're on board. So at the Roundtable Connection event, we have the principal, and we bring all those partners around the table that we have engaged, and they have a chance to meet each other for the first time. Relationships can begin. We have a template and facilitators around the table for people to follow. And the principal, we have one main objective. We want that principal to share their deepest heart, their dreams for that school. We want to hear it directly from that principal, what they see when the kids come through the door, and what they need to make that happen. In step 3, we have implementation. And once the goals are established, potential projects are discussed for the partners to execute to support those goals. The partners and the principals will meet regularly throughout the year together to track progress, celebrate, and build relationship. We will provide the resources, templates, some meeting guides, etc. And we have 3 partnership directors that will be at those meetings. They are assigned different school districts, and they help in the beginning to really facilitate the process. In step 4, we provide ongoing equipping events. We're trying to build sustainability. We provide district-wide inspirational annual kickoffs events, and we bring everybody together, and it's so much fun. Because as the partnerships grow, there's a lot of energy in the room, and it's a learning community, and they have chances to share the kinds of things that they're doing to meet their goals and what's happened in the previous year. I've listed several things here because these are the things that we've learned along the way that are very helpful to a sustainable, contextual, process-driven community engagement for the schools. It is process-driven, not program-driven, to create a framework for innovation and contextual work. We engage the local churches and the businesses as much as possible. We want them, the people that live in the community, to be coming into that neighborhood school, as they are a community stakeholder, and they are available, visible, and committed. Building relationship is key. We talked about that. The principal's goals will inform the collaborative project plan. This reframes the expectations from the principal serving the partners to the partners serving the leadership of the school, the principal. We envision all of our partners to serve without an agenda, to just come with the gifts that they have, the resources and volunteers they have to serve into the goals. We want to equip liaison leaders and champions in each one of those partnerships. So we have champions for every single school, liaisons for every single school so that they can do the facilitation that our group would do over a period of time. We train them to do the work we do. And then we want champions for each organization because here's something that we've learned along the way. It has to be part of the culture of the organization that is serving the school. So if the pastor leaves or the business leadership changes, it's in the culture and the work will continue. We're tracking inputs and outputs, and this year we're moving into trying to measure impact. We have a fairly significant challenge because we're working with schools that have a lot of variables. There's new curriculum, there's all kinds of things happening. We have the different partners, we have different staff serving. So we have all these moving parts and variables. But we are going to attempt to track the goals and the success of those goals, and here's why we believe that's significant. This is a shift for us because in the past, when we started, we were just simply meeting random needs. What do you need? And the principal would say, I could pack backpacks or volunteer mentors or whatever it might be. And so the group would try to come together and provide those resources, but what we found is that they weren't really connecting with each other in a significant way. So that's why we wanted the principal to come with their goals for the school, and the projects then serve up into those goals. Change can be challenging, but we felt compelled to move from this need-based model to a goal-based model. All the collaboration and projects will be tied to the goal, and the resources needed will be expanded and tied to that goal. And for many, this may seem relatively unimportant, and when I share this with people, sometimes they're, well, why does that make a difference? It makes a huge difference to us because it is a shift from just identifying needs to vision and problem solving. Our logic model is simple. If the expert, the principal, is forming the goals that fit in the context of the culture and student population, the collaborators are working together to achieve that goal. We're working on designing an online tool, and we're working with Tom on this and his group at Significant Matters. We want everyone, we want to have a shared metric tool. We think we're ready for that, where everybody participates, goes online, puts their data in there so that we can track it. And we celebrate success. We think that's very, very important. Quickly, I just want to share with you our outputs. We're in 7 districts, 85 schools. There are 362 community partners engaged in the schools that we serve here in Kansas City, with 181 of those are churches, 95 are businesses, and 86 are civic organizations. Those community partners have mobilized about almost 1,200 volunteer mentors and 1,726 projects. Over 40,000 children have been served to date, and almost $700,000 has been invested directly back into the schools from those partnerships. As I close, I see that I'm out of time, so I'm going to move through. This is the model that we have. The first column is about our inputs, and so we're going to measure how effective is our process, and then we have our outputs. And we want to measure this year something very, very significant, which we have talked about this morning. What's the impact on the congregant that's sitting in the pews every Sunday when they begin to capture the heart of really engaging their heart in harm's way and getting involved in these partnerships? What happens to that congregation? So we're working on that as well to be able to measure the impact of that. As I close, I wanted to share with you what vision looks like for me. This is a 14-year-old girl in an urban school that I mentored last year. And vision for me has a name. Her name is Jada. And we met every Thursday over lunch, and we had our ups and downs and lots of challenges. And then mid-year, she lost her grandmother, who was her rock, her stability, and we went through 3 months of some pretty serious grieving. And it took a while for us to get there, but we did. And I was so privileged to walk beside her in that. And the reason I bring her up is she is a gifted young woman, and she wants to be an attorney. And so my thought was, what can I bring to that idea? And I know 3 attorneys that I thought maybe we could do a FaceTime while we're having lunch, and she could ask them questions, and they could respond and ask her questions, and so we did that. And this picture was taken on the day she talked to Amy Minnick. And Amy Minnick shared here last year, and she just loved Amy. And Amy asked her great questions, but she also gave her some really great next steps for herself and encouraged her in so many ways and offered to meet with her and her mom on an ongoing basis. The sad part of this story is that Jada moved away. And so we weren't able to pursue that, but my hope is that the seeds were planted and that she will continue to seek the counsel of others, the counsel of advisors, because that is what Amy told her to do, and she was very excited about that prospect. So I thank you so much for letting me share on caring for kids. It's my heart and my passion, and I really believe that it can make a difference because we aren't doing the work. It's the church and the businesses and the civic groups. They are doing the work. We're just creating the framework for everyone to come together and to make a difference. Thank you so much.